It's an early Saturday morning, and you and your friends are at the zoo. As you walk around, it gets very crowded, and there are adults tapping on the glass, and kids are running around and screaming, and the animals are not being very active. Most of them are sitting in the shade out of the sun. As you walk by the enclosures, you realize how small these enclosures are for how many animals are in them and how big these animals are. You look around, and there are people swimming with dolphins on one side and monkeys doing tricks right in front of you. As you walk through the enclosure with the free-roaming animals, they walk by you like they're not even phased. These types of behaviors are common for zoo animals. Most of them are bored, waiting for food, or just don't have enough room to roam around in. Imagine being in the situation that these animals are in. According to the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, an organization dedicated to the advancements of zoos and aquariums and the conservation of education, science, and recreation, states that there are 238 zoos and aquariums in 12 different countries. There are only 135 zoos and 52 aquariums that are actually accredited, and there are about 800,000 different animals held captive in these, and about 6,000 different species. Today I will be talking about the problems that the zoos have on the animals and why we should not support and visit them. I will also include multiple solutions to these problems. I personally love to go to the zoo with my family and friends. I like to see the animals that I would not see around my house. But with research, I have learned that there are many problems with zoos that cause harm to animals. I encourage you to listen to the following subjects: education on animals, health of animals, exhibits, and visitation. Now that you know the subject I will be speaking on, let's learn more about the education of animals within zoos. People love to study the behavior of animals. Most will believe this is how they act in the wild also. According to the LCA, the People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, this program supports and helps animals in need within zoos. When you are being educated on animals within zoos and not in the wild, you are seeing how the animals are reacting in captivity instead of how they would react in the wild. Now that you know that the knowledge we learn about animals in the zoos are altered to their living conditions, let's look at some solutions to the problem. On PBS, an educational television program says that zoos are a good place for children and adults to be educated, but the animals are being held captive within their cages, which is not good for their normal behaviors, so it displays different behaviors than they would in the wild. Having zoos expand their enclosures would be one way to solve the problem, and creating more of a natural habitat by letting the animals hunt their own food would also be another way to solve the problem. The information sheets on the zoos enclosures could also tell more facts about how they are in the wild instead of how they are when held in captivity. There are many ways that we can help zoos be more educational, so let's look at how the health of animals are affected. Animals that are within zoos are stressed out and have psychological problems when held in captivity. PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, and is an American Animal Rights Association, states a study based on 4,500 elephants that are in the wild and in captivity showed that the median lifespan for African elephants within a zoo is 16.9 years. African elephants in the wild, it lived for the median lifespan of 56 years, 39.1 years longer than the one in captivity. Well, the ones in captivity. Also, when they are in captivity, they have to change their ways of living to adapt to their environment. For example, an important concern with elephants is lying down when they're sleeping. They're not supposed to lie down when they're sleeping. This is caused by degenerative joint and foot disease or stressful environmental changes. These animals are not meant to be crammed into these small living spaces for visitors to learn about them and take pictures of them. I have a chart here of the lifespan for female elephants in zoos and in the wild, and this has African elephants on it and Asian elephants on it. This is based on a study of about 800 elephants for around 40 years of information scientists collected. And the smaller bars, this is African elephants, this is Asian elephants. The smaller bars is for their median lifespan within the zoo, which is 17 years, and in the wild it's 56, and for Asian it's 19 in zoos and 42 in the wild. Now that we know the effects the zoos have on animals' health, let's look at some solutions for the problem. Authors Charles Schiffsman and various zoologists at the Clinic for Zoo Animals writes Preventative measures consist of enclosure modifications like laying on hills or horizontal structures. In order for many animals to live longer, they need to be evaluated according to their lives in the wild, and their enclosures should be adjusted to the results of meticulous evaluation. Let's learn more about the exhibits that the animals are living in. Enclosures are normally too small for the animals. PETA, People for Ethical Treatment of Animals, and its American Rights Association writes, even under the best circumstances, at the best zoos, these enclosures cannot begin to replicate the wild animals' habitats. Animals are often prevented from doing most things that are natural and important to them, like running, roaming free, climbing, foraging, choosing a partner, and being with others of their own kind. Any animals cannot behave properly in zoos, but the biggest animals have the problems. PETA also notes a study from Oxford University based on 4 decades of observing animals in captivity and in the wild, found that animals such as lions, tigers, polar bears, and cheetahs show the most evidence for stress and psychological problems in captivity. This also applies to marine life in the zoos. AWI, Wildlife Specialization, with a mission to alleviate the suffering inflicted on animals by people, explains that in the wild, marine life usually travels up to about 100 miles a day, and the pools that the marine life are kept in captivity are not even a mile long, and they cannot dive because the enclosures are too small. Zoos also offer services where visitors can swim with some marine life. They're being trained to lose their natural instinct and stay away from people. So when they are released back into the wild, it will be confusing to them to either come up to people, or it would be easier for poachers to get them. Exhibits are a huge problem, so here's some solutions to this problem. Enclosures would need to have major adjustments. Authors Jason Wark, Catherine Cronin, Tony Neiman, Marissa Schender, Adrian Horgan, Allison Coe, Megan Ross are all experts at Lincoln Park Zoo. They write, regular monitoring of the behavior of animals and habitat use and the appearance of animals in those habitats can provide valuable insight to their welfare. These ongoing data can help identify meaningful trends that can be acted upon to enhance welfare, and potentially reveal individual preferences and patterns that can facilitate care tailored to the individual animal. This could be monitoring these animals by camera in order to see what they need in their habitat to actually have a more natural environment. Exhibits have big impact on animals, but the animals having visitors can also affect them in many ways. So I have a map from the Columbus Zoo, and this has many show times on it for the big animals and feeding times, which helps them in no way by losing their natural instinct being fed by hand. And you can also see how close these enclosures are from the animals that are printed on the map. When animals see many people a day, it can affect them in many ways. Sally Shroon and Paul Hemsworth both have PhDs in Wildlife Conservation and Science and Animal Welfare Science Center, explains visitor contact is a prominent feature and can be unpredictable and intense, especially when it's auditory and visual interaction. Depending on the animal's perception of these human interactions, many factors can include species differences, the nature and intensity of the visitor interaction like swimming, enclosure design, and individual and animal characteristics. Animals can think negatively, positively, or neutrally about these human interactions, but you can never predict what they're going to do because before they were in the captivity, they were also in the wild where people were in danger. Visitors can have many effects on these animals, so let's move on to some solutions for these. Animals see many people a day, so to reduce this, they should have limited times where they can see the animals, or the animals should have a place where they can go and hide from people if they want to. And another way would be to have a glass, like a tinted window, where people can see through, but the animals cannot see the visitors back. This can prevent them from losing their natural behaviors that they have in the wild. All in all, there are many problems that need to be solved within zoos. These problems range from inaccurate education, unhealthy animals, small exhibits and enclosures, and encountering people. I hope you have considered not supporting and visiting the zoos with the knowledge that I have supplied.